where I'm thinking, how can I, create something like that in the single process.
So we either have to look upstream and figure out why that's happening and try to avoid it from happening. So if that means we need to change our approach, we need to do things a long way, we need to try to get it to a single process as much as we can. If that's still not possible, then we can either look at separating the processes so that if, for example, if we have a process and inside that process, maybe there's a, get rid of that. There we go. There's a certain choice, and depending on that choice, you would then treat the process a little bit differently, right? What I would be doing instead is, rather than have this as a whole single process end to end, I would have this as its own process. And then at the end of that process, have a choice that says, okay, if it's looks like this, then go to this other separate process. If it looks like that, then go to this process instead. So now we've taken a task that could be a single process and we've kind of broken it up into three instead.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how I would do it. Although I would be trying to look for a way to keep it as a single process, like trying to change how I look for customers' information, changing the forms, changing the site, changing the email channels, looking at changing as much as I can to get that thing as predictable as I can. If that's still not possible, I would certainly be breaking it up into three processes, or maybe four, right? Or five. Because that way, if something is to go wrong, you know exactly how it happened. Because if we look at the alternative, which was, for example, we had everything in a single task. If something happens to go wrong, well, the whole task is now wrong. Like, was it that they made the wrong choice? Was it that the information at the start was not correct? Was it that the response to the choice is not correct, right? So on, so on. As opposed to here, we can go, okay, well, they begun the task correctly. They made the right choice, but how they responded to that choice is still incorrect. So this means that if there's a problem, we can now identify exactly where that problem is, as opposed to in a long single process where it's all grouped together. It makes it very hard to see exactly where that problem is.
Yeah, trying to make everything as single task as possible.
Single task, ensure that, and even alongside that, if you
and it's actually easy for someone new to understand, because someone coming in and they never worked in my office, and then they see like a whole decision tree, they're gonna say, I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So, because it could be intimidating, the decision tree.
Mm-hmm.
A single task looks, at least it's really straightforward.
Correct. And the other thing as well is that if you need to duplicate this as its own process, then you can, right? So you're able to take out smaller components individually and treat them as their own process, as opposed to inside here, everything's grouped. So you can't separate it, you can't test it, you can't duplicate it. If you have a new team member on board, you can't increase it, so on, so on. So I really suggest breaking up a full production line into as many smaller processes as you can.